Do one. I think we're live. If we made the jump to hyperspace.
I see an incorrectly spelled word, but that I believe is meant to be.
There's nothing wrong with the spelling on this slide. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's right. It is my favorite. It is my favorite Hampton.
It is
the Binghamton.
That's right. We're going to check out the Hamptons.
It's easier to get to than East Hampton or Southampton or Bridgehampton.
And noted for its cherries.
Or its parlors or carousels. Yes, we are definitely live and kicking.
Okay. All right, good. Let's do a quick sound check for the folks in the live chat. I assume that you can hear Doug and Steve and myself just fine, especially the person who's talking right now. I know that we had some audio issues with me last time. I want to make sure that those aren't recurring before we get going.
Yeah, Mark Moore says it sounds good.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
Do we trust him?
No problem. Binghamton, yeah. Unfortunately.
Ouch, Brian.
Tisk tisk. You see Carlos is here. Right. And no, Bing was not invented in upstate New York. I don't think, anyways.
Well, IBM used to be really big up that way.
Yeah, in Endicott.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really...
Yeah, basically the big, the big non-shoe producing part of the economy there.
Yeah.
We'll get more into that later.
We will, actually. All right. Let's spell it correctly now, shall we? I know that a lot of maps like to misspell it, but let's go with the correct spelling now. Welcome in, everybody. It's week 2 of season 2. It's good to have you with us. Tonight we're going to have our first webinar of the season. And we're going to talk about the major highways of New York State's southern tier, centered around the city of Binghamton.
Otherwise known as the Parlor City.
Parlor City. Great place to get drunk.
That's about it. Well, that is upstate New York in general.
Yeah, that is, in a lot of places, that is the best part, yeah. So, you know, as you've seen in the schedule, I spent a lot of time in places like West Virginia and Michigan this year. And one of the things that I've been asked about is, well, why are we doing a webinar on Binghamton? This is a place that you've, spent a lot of time in the past. It's a place that's been well chronicled by the channel for many years. I mean, in fact, all the way back to the beginning, all the way back to the roots of this channel. I did some of my first test videos over a decade ago in the Binghamton area. And the reason why we're focusing on this place tonight is I promised myself in this next season that I would spend a little more time going into some of my own personal roots in the hobby and showing you some of my favorite locations that have been very influential in my love of roads. And a lot of the places you'll see tonight were some of my favorite roads very early on as a kid, like 3 or 4 years old. So this is a sentimental favorite place of mine, and so we'll be going in depth to talk about some of these early childhood greatest hits. Let's see. What do we have to talk about as far as announcements? Well, while I'm drawing a blank here, I'll show
I
you
have a
guys.
big announcement.
Do you have a big announcement? Why don't you go first? What do you
I
want?
do. I have invited, Dan to, contribute to Gribble Nation. So you'll start to see, some of his commentary and photos that that he may not be able to get on Roadway Wiz. He'll be adding on to Gribble Nation. So, welcome to the crew, Dan.
Well, thank you, Doug. It's a great pleasure to join the Gribble Nation staff and team. I know that I've really enjoyed the work that you and Adam and Tom have been doing over the years. I think you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to being a part of your team and chipping into the effort that you guys have over there. So,
yep. And by no means do I envision Dan abandoning Roadway Wiz. I think it's still going to be a big part of what you do too. So,
yeah, screw that. I'm not giving that up. But, but no, it is interesting. It's going to be interesting to branch out a little bit and talk about things in blog form as opposed to just regular Facebook post form. So I'm looking forward to going into more detail on some of these blog posts about my travels. I know on Facebook I have more limited time. When I'm writing a blog, I can spend as much time as I want writing it and discovering how I want to write it and how I want to phrase things and what things I want to bring up. So, if you haven't already checked it out, it's gribblenation.org, right?
It is.
And Gribble Nation has a post or a page on Facebook. You can follow that. I'm sure you'll be seeing me stop by there every once in a while.
And Instagram
as well. You can follow them there. And looking forward to seeing you guys over there as well. I know you guys have been seeing me over on Roadway Wiz for a number of years, but this is going to be cool to be a part of the team of guys at Gribble Nation going forward. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you.
On the YouTube uploads front, we continue to work through the West Virginia stuff from the summer. We are actually now working our way through some of the bridges of the Ohio River that I was able to film back in June and July. So that will keep us going for a couple more days. That series will end on December 14th, which is coming. That's Monday, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So West Virginia will put a bow on that series on Monday, and we'll start a new series on the 15th, which is going to be Greater St. Louis from May of 2019. That series has been sitting in my drawer for about a year and a half, and it's about time that I at least dust off the best of it and show you guys the major freeways of St. Louis. So we'll have that series through, I think I can write this down. Yeah, so 12/15 through 1, what the heck is the day on that? 1/16, I think? Something like that. That's St. Louis. All right. I know you can't read that, but oh well. And then we have another series that I actually just was working on right before we went live. I finished scheduling stuff in this time frame. So once St. Louis is done on the 16th, we'll have this series on YouTube. And this is going to be... Anybody want to give me a drum roll? Okay. Excuse the absolute horseshit writing, but I think you get the idea. These three interstates, 555, 69 in Mississippi, and 269 in Mississippi and Tennessee.
Because Tennessee and his 10 of believing.
And 10 of touching is 10 of jail time.
Ooh.
So that I just scheduled about a half hour ago. So those are the videos from Memphis that you'll be getting. That'll take us through late January, and then we'll see what I decide to do after that. All right, so that's the outlook for the next, I guess, month and change. Close to a month and a half. That's what you have to look forward to. All right.
All right.
You look at the map here for the season. We are here tonight, and this is what we have coming up.
All right.
Through
at least for Saturday's schedule.
Yeah, I can tell you guys right now that the Sunday stuff we're gonna have to make up as we go, because I don't think it's gonna be possible at times to go up against the NFL playoffs. So the month of January might be a little interesting as far as how we decide to do this.
I feel like as long as you're not doing it during a Titans game, no one would have any reason to watch the NFL.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not going to do anything during a Titans game. Like, obviously, every weekend in January would be bad in that regard because the Titans are going to win the Super Bowl this year. But
not if the Bills have a say.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they will. That'd be interesting. Maybe. So anyway, we'll have to play that by ear and see how we want to do that. But I'm just warning you guys ahead of time that the Sundays might get a little dicey in January. All right.
Mm.
All right.
That works.
I want to take a second before we get into the main topic tonight. And I want to acknowledge that we lost somebody very significant in the bridge research community. James Baughan, I hope I'm saying his last name right, was the main webmaster of the website bridgehunter.com. I know that a lot of us have heard of that site, and a lot of us have used it profusely for our own research and our own planning of trips and so on and so forth. He passed away almost a week ago. He was very young. He was in his late 30s.
Yeah, only a couple months younger than me.
Yeah, he was a very young man, and he had, for my money, probably the single best database on the internet for bridges and information on them, and even bridges that are no longer with us, that have been removed. He had a lot of information on stuff that's no longer standing, and I think that was tremendous what he did. And I can only hope that somebody comes along to pick up where he left off, because it's the Bridge Hunter site in general is an amazing research tool.
Yeah, I used it quite a bit to find new bridges, and also when I was trying to do my own research, even if it was trying to get like the length of a bridge. That was very useful. But one thing I had discovered, basically reading about him, after he passed, was he was also very big in historic preservation, especially in the southeastern part of Missouri, which was where he was from.
Yeah, I mean, he did an incredible job, and if I ever had a gap in my amount of information, or there was just something that I couldn't find anywhere else, chances are that he had it, and it was amazing the amount of material he had and the amount of information. There's stuff on there that I've never been able to find anywhere else, and that's just incredible. What he was
right, and there was a lot of users who were also contributing pictures and information to that site as well. So it was something where he was able to bring in the knowledge of others to help make that site even more useful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just a tragic
Yeah.
loss, and I really hope that somebody can come along to help keep it going, because it's a tremendous resource, as I said, and it really, James really started something special with that site, and I just hope
Right.
that it can continue to flourish now that he's gone. All right. Binghamton is known as the Parlor City. Let's learn a little bit about Binghamton. It is named.
It is home of the Speedy.
It is home of the Speedy. Do we want to take a second to explain what that is?
Speedy is it's a marinated meat, like usually chicken, lamb, or pork. And that is, and it's cooked skewer style, like kebab style, and is served basically on a sub roll or hot dog roll or however you want to make it, and it is quite tasty.
It is. It is. That's true.
If made correctly.
Yeah, I'll occasionally make them, myself. So.
Yeah. My dad makes them somewhat often. Yeah, they're pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my dad, for those of you who don't know, my dad is from Binghamton, and so that explains the connection with me, because I do still have extended family up this way. But yeah, so Binghamton's actually a city I know a lot more about than I probably should. But the city is named for William Bingham, who was a statesman and surveyor who led the first effort to settle the area during the American Revolution. Bingham was also known as being a delegate in the Continental Congress from Pennsylvania. He eventually served in the U.S. Senate from Pennsylvania for a term. He was also a lifelong figure in the Pennsylvania State House. So that explains that. So that's his backstory. Binghamton is the anchor city of what is known as the Triple Cities region, which includes Binghamton, Johnson City, and Endicott. The city has a population of about 48,000. The metro population is about 250,000, and that, of course, includes the entire Triple Cities area.
Right, I believe that's Broome and Tioga counties.
Does it include Tioga? Okay.
I believe so.
Also, for baseball fans, they might be interested to know that the area was home to, I think it was a Yankees affiliate that was known as the Triplets.
Yes, and my understanding is the stadium was knocked down to build the Southern Tier Expressway.
Yeah, I think it was located just west of Exit 71, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think the guys.
And then until this year, it was then the home of a Mets affiliate.
Well, it still is.
I thought they were being dropped. No.
Nope. No. They're still keeping on. Essentially, they were able to. I think because they were one of the early candidates to be dropped from affiliated baseball, the right people stepped in to save the team.
Ah, excellent.
Which, of course, as me, being from a city that was supposed to keep their affiliate and then wound up getting dropped. Little sour grapes, but we'll deal with it as it comes.
So Binghamton is keeping their team?
Binghamton's keeping their team.
And there's still going to be a Mets affiliate?
Still the Mets AA affiliate.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. Nothing changes there.
Still the Rumble Ponies.
Yep, although my understanding is that they were... They've basically been saved a few times. They almost moved about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like the Binghamton team has been in perpetual flux for the last several years.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a quick map overview of the area as we zoom into southern Broome County. As you can see, we have 81, the main interstate coming up from Pennsylvania and passing out of town to the north. Syracuse is about an hour to the north of here on 81. Scranton, Pennsylvania is about an hour to the south. I-88 begins in the Binghamton area and proceeds to the northeast towards Albany, as you recall from last Saturday.
Yep, I was here for that.
Doug was there. And we have Route 17, which continues on both sides of Binghamton. It heads west towards Elmira, Jamestown, and Erie, Pennsylvania. And to the east, it heads through the Catskills and towards the New York City metropolitan area. In the city of Binghamton itself, we have other shorter highways. We have a short highway along Route 26 in Endicott. We have a short highway through Johnson City on Route 201. We have the Brandywine Highway, 363 and 7.
And then you have the Vestal Parkway, which is 434.
Yeah, that's down this way.
Down on the south side of the Susquehanna.
On the good side of the Susquehanna. Okay.
I'm sure we'll have opportunities to get more into the history of some of these roads that were meant for various different things.
I believe we will. I think you're right. Here's just a close-up of the downtown area right here. We have the 201 and the 363-7 and the Vestal Parkway all visible on this map. Okay. Why don't we start learning about some of these highways right now? 81 for the longest time was the only interstate in Binghamton. It's been joined in my lifetime by a couple other ones, but this was the first and only one for about 25 or 30 years or so. As we mentioned on the last couple of slides, this highway does connect metro areas of northeast Pennsylvania with central and northern tier New York State. Binghamton's kind of the halfway point between Scranton and Syracuse. And probably the biggest development on 81 and 17 in the last several years has been the Prospect Mountain Interchange project, which brought that whole area of 81 and 17 through central Binghamton up to interstate standard. I suppose we should spend a couple minutes detailing that, right?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay.
I'd like to detail that old I-81 shield.
Yeah, that's
you and me both.
Yeah, it's very surprising that that's still there. God, that's got to be, what, 40, 50 years old, maybe? I don't know. I'm amazed they kept it, because they put up the 86 shield right next to it. I figured they would have just replaced the 81 right there, but
they might have had some extra, old signs floating around in stock. Like
Dylan says it was installed recently.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a state shield, but it looks like it would be a lot older than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like signs like this on the upper left, where you have destinations and mileage along both 86 and 81 in separate columns. That's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, actually, that is. Yeah, because if you're going up 81, for instance, into Binghamton, you might be continuing on to Rochester on 17 and then 390. You're probably not really thinking about Syracuse. So I think that is a good way to split things up, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to review the new MUTCD proposal to see if they've accounted for this or not.
Yeah, that's coming out, I think Monday. It's
Monday.
Yeah.
You can read it this weekend, and you can start commenting Monday.
So we're going to have to update the ground rules for there's no way that's MUTCD compliant, right? I mean, is it that big of an update?
First, we have to update the rules of that group to include only things that aren't MUTCD compliant.
Well, I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I look in that group, there's stuff that's posted, and I'm like, that's MUTCD compliant.
Or it's from a country where the MUTCD doesn't apply.
Exactly, yeah.
So it may not be compliant, even though it might not be compliant in that own country.
I could just post thousands of photos from the other countries I've seen and say none of these are MUTCD compliant, and I'd just post one an hour.
Yeah. I'll go through my Iceland pictures, take a while and post that there.
Yeah. Here are some aerial views of the Prospect Mountain interchange. So this is where north to south 81 joins in with east to west 17, just north of downtown Binghamton. The river you see here is the Shenango River, and the interchange itself is built into the side of Prospect Mountain, hence the name of the interchange. As you can see, all of the flyovers were either replaced outright or new flyovers were added. One of the big advantages of building the interchange in this format is that it separates out the traffic between Route 17 and Route 81. It gives each highway its own dedicated lanes through the interchange. One of the bigger issues with the previous alignment was that not only were the lanes narrower and there were no shoulders, but there was also a lot of weaving between lanes in this general area because you have exits on either side of this interchange within close proximity. So everybody now basically gets their own dedicated roadway, whether you're staying on 17, staying on 81, or you're exiting for downtown somewhere in that area. It, in theory, will make things a lot safer, and as I said, this was one of the conditions of the Interstate 86 upgrade through Broome County. So this project, I believe, started in, 2012, 2011?
2012 or 2013.
Yeah, and it wrapped up 100% in the spring of 2020.
Actually, I think it was in 2012 when it started.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I remember we had a road meet in Binghamton, and I think one of the places we had stopped was the Sherry Lindsay Park, which if you look at the lower picture, you kind of see that thing that looks like a pool. That's where the park is, and you basically walked out and basically get pictures basically from the river level. Actually, you can see that in this picture, too. Basically, to the right of the interchange, looks like there's a pool.
Yep. Yeah, these drone pictures were from August of this year, and in fact, my car is parked somewhere in that parking lot there. That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good place to take off from.
Yeah, it is.
But this gives you a good idea of exactly the layout of the interchange and all the new flyovers that were added. Well, really, there were only 2 flyovers added. There were the original 4 ramps that were replaced in kind, and then you had the 2 additional ones added to, again, give traffic its own roadway depending on which highway you're coming from. It looks nice. It came out really good. I believe this was the single largest contract ever issued by Region 9 in DOT.
I believe it.
And, yeah, it came out pretty darn good.
It increased the speed of, at least on I-81, I want to say, but I think all of the travel speeds are much higher now than they were at the old interchange.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you have much greater margin there now.
Still not interstate standard though.
Well, I thought that whole thing was being built to interstate standard.
Are those curve? What are? I have to see what the design speed is on those curves.
Well, the posted limit through there is still 55. Is that what you mean?
No, if there's an advisory limit on the curve, that would be the question.
I believe it's 50.
Yeah, so it's not quite that. I know that was the best they could do, but there was an argument there to make sure that would be accepted as part of I-86 in the future.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they wouldn't have gone ahead with this design if the feds had whispered in their ear and said we're not going to accept it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Hell, they have Dead Man's Curve in Cleveland, and that's an interstate. So I'm sure they would allow this.
There's a difference with new interstates versus the grandfathered ones, although they somehow put I-68 through Cumberland, Maryland, and I have no idea how they managed to get that through in the modern age.
Yeah, that's another one. But, yeah.
Just point to that and say, hey, this highway's better, and you got yourself an interstate.
That's, I'm perfectly cool with that. Southern Tier Expressway is the term for Route 17 west of I-81. As the name suggests, it runs east to west across southern New York, between Binghamton and the other cities of the region, such as Elmira, Corning, Jamestown, and it eventually runs into I-90 in northwest Pennsylvania. The section of the expressway west of, I want to say, Waverly is officially numbered I-86.
Yes, I think it ends around Chemung.
Yeah, doesn't it end around where it dips into Pennsylvania there?
Just about.
Yeah, somewhere in that area. So everything west of there is officially interstate. I know that there are a couple of things still outstanding as far as interstate improvements between there and Binghamton. Obviously, the biggest item that had to be addressed was Prospect Mountain, but I think there are still a couple of small things out there that have to be done.
Right. I think one of the things that still has to be done is the exit 67 interchange in Endicott. There's an issue. I think there's an issue with the ramps where it needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, isn't there like interchange geometry and stuff like that at a couple of spots?
I believe so. I don't know the specifics on that, but that's my understanding of why things are kind of being held up. Or basically extending 86 further east towards Binghamton.
Yeah. I think somebody mentioned shoulders or lack thereof at a couple spots, like on the one of the Susquehanna River bridges. I don't know if that would necessarily keep them from signing the interstate, but that is something that is substandard. So that's out there also. The other thing to mention here is that officially this is the section from Pennsylvania on east to I-81 is known as ADHS Corridor T. It is the northernmost east-west ADHS corridor. The ADHS system we'll talk a lot more about when we come to talk about West Virginia, but basically it's a series of federally funded highways running through the section of the country known as Appalachia, from Pennsylvania all the way down through, I think, as far south as Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah, I think the Appalachian, basically region as far as the ADHS corridors, I think they go down as far as Mississippi.
Yeah, I think,
and also into Cincinnati's doorsteps.
Yeah, Corridor D goes out to Cincinnati, and I think what became I-22 started life as Corridor X or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it is pretty far-reaching. Yeah. The definition of Appalachia is very generous in some parts. So when you got highways going all the way out there, but Yeah, it's a very far-reaching and complicated system, and we'll be talking a lot more about that in coming weeks.
I've posted a link for people to see a map. I'm not going to vouch that it's a perfect map, but it gives you an idea of where the corridors are, all the way from New York down to Mississippi.
Yeah, so here's the exit 67 we were talking about in the upper left, and here's an APL that was recently installed as part of Prospect Mountain in the lower right. Route 17 east of I-81 is also known as the Quickway, and this is a lame name for a highway that they came up with in the late 40s, and it managed to stick. It basically runs through the Catskills, connecting Binghamton with the Hudson Valley and southeastern Orange County at the doorstep of the New York City metropolitan area. It was built predominantly in the 50s and 60s, especially the Orange County section was built in the 50s with plans drawn up in the 40s. So you can imagine that the early construction of the Quickway was not exactly built to modern standards. And this is coming back to become an issue now that there's a lot of chatter about the I-86 number, which is eventually intended to extend along the Route 17 Expressway as far east as Harriman and the New York State Thruway.
And the eastern part is signed. If you drag out the word sign long enough, there are signs.
there are signs, especially in Orange County now. Yeah.
Yeah, officially I-86, at least in the Broome County area, goes, I believe, as far as Windsor, which is where New York Route 79 or Exit 79 is.
Yep, that's the eastern limit of what's signed. Yep. And then through the Catskills, there's a long gap, and then depending on who you listen to at Region 8, there's signs popping up, from the Sullivan County line all the way east. But yeah, nothing officially is recognized at a federal level, other than the section between I-81 and Windsor. As far as...
Yeah, and it may not be completed in our lifetimes if you have to take Hale Eddy into account.
Well, yeah, I mean, what still has to be done, there's a lot of interchange work in Orange and Sullivan counties. There's a bypass that has to be built between Hancock and Deposit, exits 84 through 87. That's the Hale Eddy section that Doug is alluding to.
Yep.
And no one's really in a big hurry to do it, so it's just going to sit there for a number of years. And really, with the removal of the traffic light in Parksville and the bypass that they built there several years ago, there are no more traffic lights on Route 17 between Binghamton and New York City. So 17, as it currently stands, while it isn't an interstate and it isn't up to interstate standards, my view on the matter is that it functions perfectly fine as is. And I also suspect that folks at DOT share the same opinion because they're not in a hurry to change much. So I'm doubting that you're going to see much in the way of improvements in the coming years. I know that Orange County is talking about adding a third lane in each direction, and that project would wipe out the remaining to-do list interstate-wise in that area. But I have not really heard a lot of chatter from Sullivan and Delaware counties to bring their sections up to interstate standard.
Well, maybe since the Prospect Mountain interchange is done, that might be one of the next things they move on to. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? We get to explore the Quickway more in depth next Saturday.
That's a good idea. Somebody should do a virtual tour episode on that.
Yes. I look to you for that one.
It's got to be somebody who does virtual tours.
Sure, why not?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That'd be a great name for a blog, Doug. You should work on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one of these days I'll bring it back.
We talked a lot about I-88 on our virtual tour episode last Saturday, but it's worth recapping a little bit right now because we are talking Binghamton after all. This is the Eastern I-88. We're not in Illinois. We're not in the Chicago suburbs. There are two I-88s. This just happens to be the Eastern one. It runs, for its total length, it's just shy of 120 miles, connecting Binghamton with the Albany metro area.
I believe it's 117 miles, right around where the toll booths are. Where I don't know if it's been knocked down. I'll have to check that in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I can tell you more about that off air, actually, because I do have more answers that came into focus later or just the other day. But spoiler alert, they're still there and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's not a busy interchange, so
yeah, and the plaza
compared to like 24 or 25.
Yeah, that plaza kind of traffic moves through there just fine, so they're not in a hurry to get rid of it. We spent some time talking about this guy Warren Anderson last week too. Just to recap, this was the Senate Majority Leader in the New York State Senate, who was very unhappy that he had to drive over lame 2-lane roads to get between his district in the Binghamton area and the state capitol in Albany. So he pounded sand and he demanded that a interstate standard highway be built to connect the two areas. And the 88 designation was approved in 1968, and the freeway was fully complete in the late 80s. And to my knowledge, Senator Anderson never actually used I-88 for his commute.
Yeah, my understanding is he flew to Albany.
Yeah, but he demanded that we have an interstate to connect the two. So that's why we have this interstate.
Yep. But is it New York's quietest interstate?
It's got to be up there.
It is, although I think if it's 86, west of 390, that's pretty quiet too.
Yeah, I can see that.
86 has its moments. I would think the northern stretches of 81 are some of the quietest.
Yes, north of Watertown, that is pretty quiet. That's a stretch I take quite a bit, so. But here's more of 88 for you.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about 88 and see more footage of it, I encourage you folks, if you haven't already done so, to check out our virtual tour episode on I-88, which Doug and I and Adam and Steve had a blast hosting for you last week. So
yes,
it's on the channel if you wish to check it out. You could have more I-88 discussion than you could possibly stand. So it's there for you, and I encourage you to check it out. All right, let's get into some more Binghamton highways here. The Brandywine Highway, which connects downtown Binghamton with 17 and 81 just north of town. I don't know about you, Doug, but I always get stuck at that red light at
yes.
It's the one traffic light between 17 and downtown, and I always seem to get stuck at it.
Well, I think they do that on purpose.
Well, I guess.
I've never had that problem. I think it's you.
They know I'm coming, apparently.
Yeah.
It's Dan. Quick, we must do something.
Exactly. They see the Whizmobile coming, and the light has to change to red.
But that was supposed to be all freeway for quite a while.
I gotta think that they had to at least have thought about eliminating that light, because the rest of it is expressway grade. at least as far north as the interstate. But
For a while, they were planning that. I want to say they were planning that as the western terminus of what became 88, but I know they were planning that as a freeway out of downtown to the north.
yeah, Doug, you shared something with me the other day about that, right?
Right, where they were trying to figure out, the connector between 88 and 81, because that was actually the last part of 88 that was built. Some of the plans they were trying to figure out, build it to the north near where they did, or, basically sink the terminus further to the south, basically to, feed into the Brandywine, or just be a little bit closer to where, the Prospect Mountain Interchange is.
Yeah, so basically 88 would have ended a lot closer to downtown than it does, right? Because it
Yes.
would have basically followed the Brandywine alignment of 7. Yeah.
And it was also once part of 17, as Dylan has pointed out.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right? Like, because it used to follow US 11 for a good part of it
Right.
from the east. So that's a different alignment than this one? Or did it...
Well, 17 has had a number of alignments over the years.
Okay, so I'm
The-
probably...
The 434 alignment of 17, which we may be getting to 434 later, but when it came into Binghamton, the latest iteration of that then jumped onto 363 from there.
Okay. Yeah, and as you can see in the photo in the lower right, the Region 9 has not been shy about putting up 86 signs, even though the transition isn't official at this point. But at least in this area, like the city of Binghamton, they've put up a lot of 86s in the last couple of years. Which I personally like. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, I bring up this picture because sometimes drones are really good if you want to get a lay of the land and see stuff that isn't immediately apparent from ground level. And I mentioned on the previous slide that there is something of a backwards alignment here through downtown. So normally you would have your traffic facing each other like this, right? So you have, in this case, you would have southbounders over here and northbounders over here, right? Well, instead, what happens is, in this configuration at the south end of the highway, you actually have something like this, where they switch sides. So actually, your southbound traffic crosses over northbound to follow in the quote-unquote wrong direction. See that? And this is partially done to accommodate what happens down here at the State Street Bridge, where you have the ramps connecting to downtown and the bridge to the south bank of the Susquehanna. It makes that transition to the State Street Bridge a lot easier. There's a lot less that has to be done right-of-way wise to make it work. But this aerial shot from August illustrates exactly what happens. And it's a little quirky feature that I've known about for a long time, but seeing it from the air is very interesting.
And this one applies if you're thinking of the old path of 17, because if you are looking at it from the perspective of flowing into North Shore Drive and continuing west, you have that other roadway against the river, so that doesn't cross over. So you actually have an east-west-east if you look at a sandwich there.
Yes, this is a ramp to northbound over here, yep. And yeah, I gotta think that this is a leftover or a relic from the original North Shore Drive, because also take note, in the lower left, down here, let me get rid of this, you have the old abutment for the Rock Bottom Bridge right here, which we'll talk about in a few more slides. But yeah, this would have been a surface facility, and you would have had an intersection here for the bridge going this way, and you have the intersection for the Exchange Street Bridge down here. So yeah, it all makes sense that this would have been a surface street that they just, and then they came in later and shoved the highway in to the right of it. So that's the story with that. And right on cue, because I know somebody mentioned it a second ago, here's Vestal Parkway, which is running east to west along the south bank of the river. It serves the immediate suburbs, the south side of Binghamton, Vestal, areas across the river from Johnson City and Endicott. It's mostly an at-grade highway. As you get closer to Binghamton, there are more limited access elements to it, but it stays mostly an at-grade facility throughout its length. And I think Steve was mentioning that this is indeed a former alignment of Route 17 before the Expressway was built across the river.
And at one time, it was also numbered as New York Route 188 back during the late 60s. They changed the number to 434 because of the I-88 that was coming.
Oh, is that why?
Yes, because they didn't want people to, with I-88 being so close, you didn't want to confuse people with having, 188 nearby.
Okay. I think they just should have made it I-188.
Maybe.
That would be okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I guess it lasted about 6 months, and then there were apparently too many eights. As Dylan had pointed out. The Vestal Parkway also has a lot of your, commercial, big box store developments, especially, in the town of Vestal.
Yeah, it's really one of the big suburban strips of the area, as far as that stuff goes. I know Harry L. Drive in Johnson City is another one of those stretches.
Right.
Speaking of Johnson City, you want to talk about favorite freeways as a kid? As a very impressionable 4 or 5-year-old? Well, this is one of them.
This is also the road to Wegmans.
There is a Wegmans off of this.
At the end of 201, yeah.
That's right.
Basically, if you're going northbound, it ends at Wegmans.
It ends at Wegmans, yep. That's right. That's always a good thing when a highway ends at Wegmans. I approve of that.
Yeah.
So this is a north-south connector. It crosses the Susquehanna on the C. Fred Johnson Bridge, and it also connects SUNY Binghamton with Route 17 and the regional expressway system. One of the bigger projects, again, as an impressionable young lad, I was paying attention to this, was what they call the Johnson City flyover. So what happened was, let's save the Johnson City flyover for a second, because I can better illustrate it from the air. This was one of my favorite highways as a kid, and one of the reasons for that was my dad's aunt lived in a house that was, hang on, technical difficulties. Okay.
Please stand by.
Okay, so my dad's aunt lived in a house. Guess where it was? It was right here, right next to the highway. So this overpass here between 17 and 17C was right in her, just about in her front yard. So you might imagine that this was a favorite spot of mine from a very young age. And it still is to this day. I've never really been able to shake that, but that's okay. It's a roadway whiz historic location, or historic site, if you will. Okay. We need to talk about the Johnson City flyover. So here you'll see in this picture, we have a traffic circle here, and we have a highway. Like that. So you might be wondering, okay, well, what's the big deal? Well, up until several years ago,
Around 2004, 2005.
This wasn't here. The original configuration was that there was a much bigger circle. I'm not drawing that right. Let me try this again. The circle was much bigger. It was something like this. It was a much bigger footprint, and you had all the spokes coming in. Like 201 would come in like this and then exit out this way. So the intent of the flyover was to allow traffic on 201 to just completely bypass the circle. And they dubbed this project the Johnson City Flyover for that reason.
Yeah, because the circle was known as Johnson City Circle.
Yeah.
To my understanding. And then you have Riverside Drive coming in, which actually goes along the river into downtown Binghamton. Then you have Floral Avenue, which goes towards 17C, through some residential neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Should mention that Riverside Drive, in fact, connects back to 363 again.
Yeah, it's the same Riverside Drive, yeah. It begins up here at 17C and then heads south to the river and then east through Binghamton. Yep, that's the same one. So this project was completed roughly 2004 or so. And it made the 201 Expressway fully limited access along its entire length. So as part of this, the expressway was relocated. Therefore, the circle that they decided to retain in this area did not have to be as big or occupy as large of an area. So you still have a circle here, but it's a much smaller one.
Actually, it finished around October 11th, 2005, according to Dylan, give or take a few days.
Give or take a few days, okay.
Yeah, and I'll take his word for it, because he knows Binghamton better than all of us.
Yeah, he knows it better than me, so I know that's probably true. The previous slide showed the flyover area looking from the south, looking northbound. Here's the view from the other side, looking south from the north. Same idea, right? So the flyover bypasses the circle down at grade level. And right immediately beyond the flyover is the Susquehanna River Bridge. And then right beyond that is Vestal Parkway, where the highway ends.
And I have pictures floating around from the old configuration on my hard drive.
Yeah, you got a lot of old stuff that I like.
Yeah, because I started taking pictures around 1999, 2000. I was in Oswego, and then basically going between there and home in Long Island. Binghamton is usually where I pass through. So
yeah,
we did a drive around the Binghamton highways during one of those trips.
Oh, let's see. Well, we'll mention this short connector real quick. This is a short north-south highway, again providing a Susquehanna River crossing, connecting Route 17 with central Endicott. This is at exit 67 on Route 17, which, as we mentioned before, is one of the problem childs of the area as far as getting an interstate designation approved on Route 17.
Childs?
So let's see. So we'll have to see.
Kind of like Chucky the Evil Doll.
Childs.
Endicott. We should probably spend a second talking about the square deal, since we're here. So the main industry in town in the city of Endicott was a company, and I think they're still in business, the Endicott Johnson.
They made shoes.
They made shoes and boots. I think I think they basically made the boots for the U.S. Army during World War One. It was that big of an operation.
Yep. And there's also towns named after them, like Endwell. Was named after the Endwell shoe, which was basically a company that Endicott Johnson had produced, and then Johnson City, which is named after the Johnsons, which is Harry L. Drive, for instance. It is Harry L. Johnson. Johnson City was originally named as Leicestershire, but they changed the name Johnson City in honor of the Johnson part of Endicott Johnson.
Yep. So Johnson City, and again, these are the other two cities of the triple cities that we mentioned earlier. Johnson City is named for George F. Johnson, and he's the Johnson in Endicott Johnson, and Endicott is named for Henry Bradford Endicott, and you'll never guess what part of the Endicott-Johnson pairing he belongs to. They were the co-owners of the EJ Company, and they came up with something known as the Square Deal, which was a social services program that basically created a 40-hour work week, 8-hour work day. They gave their employees health care and other benefits, as well as parks and recreational facilities that were built specifically for EJ workers.
They're responsible for the carousels.
Yeah, they created these programs well before other more progressive firms even thought of them. And this was about 100 years ago, well before the labor movement took shape. The company was way ahead of its time in that regard. So if you see signs in the Southern Tier in Endicott and in Binghamton and in Johnson City that talk about the Square Deal, that's what we're referring to.
Right, and you can see there are archways in the area. There's one in Johnson City, one in Endicott, that says like home of the Square Deal.
And I believe we have a picture of one of those somewhere in this presentation.
Yep. And another thing about Endicott, before I forget, that is where IBM started. It was named after, basically was formed by a gentleman by the name of Watson. I think Thomas Watson was his name.
And I'm assuming that's where the name for the Watson computer came from?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, IBM was really... Was it IBM who was doing all the flight simulators early in the day, too? Or was that somebody else?
That I don't know.
Because they used to have, in this general vicinity, they used to build these huge warehouses where they would build flight simulators. And in the old days, before computers, they literally built scale models of terrain and topography and cities on the floors of these warehouses.
Yeah, so a different guy, Link had done the flight simulators, according to Dylan.
Oh, was it Link? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a big thing in Binghamton back in the day.
That, in my understanding, too, is that Binghamton also, at one time, was one of the leading producers of film, as in basically for photography. I forget the name of the company, but maybe it was Apgar, I think was the name. But they made a lot of they made a lot of film, and at one point Ansco, there we go, and they were right up there with Kodak and a lot of the other companies. And the building, I went in Binghamton once on a photo walk.
Well, that covers Binghamton highways, and there's one more little detour I want to take in this slideshow. Back in September, I went up to the Finger Lakes and checked out the Watkins Glen area, which is regarded among race fans as the birthplace of American professional road racing. In the years after World War II, there wasn't really much of a road racing scene in the United States in general. And the first road race that was officially sanctioned and organized took place on the streets of Watkins Glen in 1948. It was organized by a gentleman named Cameron Argensinger, and he created a street circuit along existing roadways that amounted to a lap of about 6.5 miles in length. It looped through town, then up through the hills west of town. Is everybody all right back there?
Yep, that's my joints.
Are these like weed joints or something else?
Nope, that's my bones.
Okay.
My bones are okay.
Okay,
I think.
Well, I'm glad you guys are doing all right over there. But so the existing road course that they put together in the late 40s still exists today, and it can still be driven. And the majority of it is now part of the New York State route system. And I believe recently there was a scenic byway crereated, or something.
Yes, and the signs for the byway. It was actually an idea of our friend Chris Jordan.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris.
Yeah, he comes to some of the upstate New York meets. He's actually an engineer for Region 6.
I guess this is Region 6, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And the logo that he uses, actually, want to say, because when I had posted a picture online, he said they had worked with the Historical Society. I think the logo that they used for the historic race course signs was actually from the Historic Society.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it does have a kind of Historical Society look to it. This picture in the upper left on this slide features that general layout of the scenic byway signage. So you have here, this is a sign at the start-finish line. As you can see, it's mile 0 on the lap. And if you glance down, you can see the start-finish line for the old course painted on the street. Across the street from here is the courthouse, I think? I don't remember.
Yeah, the Schuyler County Courthouse.
Okay.
And then basically to the left of you is Watkins Glen State Park.
Yeah, the parking area for that is right there on the left.
And that's worth visiting if you ever get the chance. My recommendation, go during a weekday.
Yeah, I should do that next time. Or better yet, go when there's water going over the waterfalls.
Yeah, this was not a good year for water. As a waterfall junkie, that was not a good year for waterfalls.
Nah, I could see why it would be really neat to go there. But
yeah.
It wasn't happening this year.
Yeah.
So that's the story with the waterfall situation. We also have historic markers on the streets of Watkins Glen. So you can see on the upper right here, the first post-World War II road race in America was held on October 2nd, 1948. On this street circuit with this start-finish line. Frank Griswold was the winner, driving an Alfa Romeo, apparently. Well,
I wonder if there was any relation to Clark.
I don't know.
Probably not. Probably not.
I doubt it, but you never know. Well, they did this street circuit deal for a few years, and the race was so popular that it quickly outgrew its own capacity and logistics. So they immediately started to look for a more permanent solution off the grid. And what they came up with was the construction of what became Watkins Glen Raceway in 1956. The permanent facility opened in that year. It was significantly renovated and expanded in the early 1970s into the form that we know it today. And it is a highlight and permanent fixture on a variety of different national series, including NASCAR, both the Cup and Xfinity series, I think also the trucks race there, if I'm not mistaken. IndyCar usually holds a race there. The Le Mans Series is a really popular event at the Glen as well. So there's all sorts of different events held during the year. It's always a favorite spot for drivers. If you poll them, a lot of times they'll tell you that Watkins Glen is their favorite track on their respective calendars. And it's a fun circuit to go to a race to. There's a permanent grandstand capacity as of this year of 40,000, although that doesn't take into account all the infield space and all that stuff. But folks from all over the country come to the Glen each year for their respective series race. And it's a lot of fun to drive, too. I should mention that. How do I know that, you ask? Well, we'll mention that in a couple minutes here. There are different layouts of the circuit. In the upper left, we have the Grand Prix circuit, which is most often used by IndyCar and Le Mans racing. The format in the lower right, which omits this area in the bottom right of the track, it just cuts across straight like this. That's the format or the layout for the NASCAR circuit. Now, some of you are quite content to watch the race on TV or watch it from the grandstands, but it is possible for some of you to get on the track yourselves and put in some laps. And I was able to do that in September of this year.
You go bowling.
You can go bowling too.
Yeah.
I left the link to the website in the upper right here if you guys want to check it out. The event is called Drive the Glen. It's usually available most weekends during the summer, or at least on weekends when there isn't a national series event going on. The admission fee for your vehicle is $30, at least as of now. So basically what you do is you get on track and you do 3 full laps around. You have to stay behind a pace car. You can't drive like a total maniac, but you can, get up I got up as fast as like 80 miles an hour at one point. So, I mean, you can floor it a little bit, but you can't do anything too crazy.
Whereas on the original course, you can do anything you like as long as no one catches you.
That's up to you.
I guess.
Although there are some, tight areas where I wouldn't go too fast on the original course.
Perhaps Milliken's Corner would be a bad place to go too fast.
Yeah, I would think that you wouldn't want to go very fast through there.
Or around the courthouse downtown would be a bad place.
Yeah, probably, especially since the police station is right there.
Well, yeah, do whatever you want as long as nobody's watching.
Yep.
We'll revisit the track later on in tonight's program, but let's take a second to talk about some bridges, because there are a few in the city of Binghamton that are worth mentioning. Whoops, I spelled the name wrong of the city again. My bad. You can see most of them in this slide here. I will highlight them for you real quick.
Yep. And that is the confluence of the Susquehanna and Shenango rivers. The Shenango River is coming up on the left, and then the Susquehanna River is coming in from the right.
Yep, so we have 3 main bridges on the Susquehanna. We have the Exchange Street Bridge back here, the State Street Bridge here, and the Washington Street Bridge here. And on the Shenango side, we have the Memorial Bridge right here. Those are the main 4 that we'll focus on. There are other ones further up this way, and in fact, you can see in the upper left in this picture, you can see Prospect Mountain up there.
Right, and the Clinton Street Bridge as well.
There's Clinton Street and there's Court Street, I think.
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Court Street would be basically the middle of the bridges that you see, and then after that's Clinton. Then after that, you see Prospect Mountain. And the State Street Bridge, according to Dylan, was the Collier Street Bridge before the street grid was changed around 1980.
Okay, because the modern State Street Bridge, which is visible in this picture here right in the middle, that was built in the 50s. So it must have had a different name when it was built, or I don't know how they would have done that. I mean, everybody calls it State Street now, but
right.
I guess it must have had a different name prior to then. The Memorial Bridge was built in 1925. That's the bridge in the upper right here. And Memorial Bridge is dedicated to Broome County war combatants. So not just World War I, but Spanish American, civil, all.
And there's monuments at the end of the bridge.
Yeah, there are dedication plaques on it, so you can go and check those out. I'm pretty sure they're original to the initial construction. What else do we want to say here? So Washington Street, which is the bridge down here in the lower right photo down at the bottom, it is a 3-span lenticular parabolic truss that was built in 1886.
And now it's a pedestrian bridge.
It is a pedestrian bridge. It carried automobile traffic until 1969, and it was pretty much left for dead at that point, but it did make a comeback, and it was rebuilt as a pedestrian bridge, which you can see today. Exchange Street Bridge is a... Do I have a picture of that one up here? Yeah. Exchange Street Bridge on this slide would be the picture, but in the upper right. It's a 2-span truss built in 1901. And then we should also mention, let me go back a slide. Here's the only bridge that no longer is with us is the Rock Bottom Bridge, which was built in the latest iteration of it was built in 1904, and it stood until 2001 when it was demolished. And as a kid, I have faint memories of seeing the Rock Bottom Bridge. And I was intrigued by it because it was abandoned for a number of years and nobody was on it. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was not old enough to be able to get pictures of it, but that is one of those childhood memories that has stuck with me. Again, it's the impressionable, thing that sometimes kids grab a hold of, and it stays with them. And it kind of leads you in the direction that you end up going in life. So that's the story with that. Now, some of the rock bottom still exists today. When the Susquehanna River level is low, you can see in the upper left picture here, this is what's left of the foundations for that bridge that are sticking up above the water. So you can still go to the location and basically see where it used to stand to this day. Other pictures on this slide, we have, this is a view of the Washington Street Bridge. It's striped like you would think it would be open to vehicle traffic, but this is actually just dedicated bike lanes running through the truss, and then on the outside you have sidewalks. And then in the lower right we have the signature view of entering downtown Binghamton on the State Street Bridge. The wonders of drone technology at work. And with that, we've reached the end of the PowerPoint this evening. So if anybody has any questions, now's a good time to throw them out to us. Somebody was mentioning a square deal arch not long ago. Well, here's one of them.
Yes.
So
the other one's out in Endicott on 17C.
Yeah, I haven't seen the other one. I've passed under this one at the Binghamton City line. I can't tell you how many times over the years.
Right.
But I know at least the one in Endicott they actually took down for a period of time, and then they either refurbished it or did something, and they put it back up in place. I'm not sure if this one has received the same treatment over the years, but that's pretty cool. You don't see many monuments like this where it just arches over the highway.
Yeah. There's an arch if you take US 61 and you cross the border between Missouri and Arkansas. There's a an arch telling you that you've crossed the state line.
Oh yeah, right. Yep, I've been through that one. That's true. I think that's one of the only ones on an interstate that I've seen, at least at a state line or something like that.
Right, well, it's on a U.S. highway, but yeah, it's my understanding, the only one I know of that's on the state line.
Well, wait, which one were you talking about?
US 61.
Oh, okay. But
between Missouri and Arkansas.
Because the one that I've been on is on, what is it? It's 70 crossing from...
Between Ohio and Indiana.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I've been under that a few times.
Okay. Probably
the one on US 61 predates the US highway system.
Tell me more, Steve.
That's all I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
That might be all he knows. Hey, it's Mr. Angry.
Yep, and if you want to see more from the Binghamton area, we have one more presentation for you next Saturday. We have our next virtual tour episode. So we hope you can join us on our ride on Route 17 between Harriman and Endicott. That'll be next Saturday's presentation. Mr. Angry is back, and he's really angry because he's also going to tell you to join us tomorrow for a special interview session. We're going to sit down with the sports director of the great WGCH 1490 AM, broadcasting out of Greenwich, Connecticut. A gentleman named Rob Adams will be my guest for the first interview.
And he knows quite a bit about roads, too.
First interview of Season 2, and yeah, he's a very unassuming road geek, but he does know a lot about them, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot of sports, and maybe we'll sprinkle in some roads as well. So... hope you can join us for that tomorrow. We are going to be doing that in the afternoon tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The other presentation next Saturday is at this time scheduled for 6 p.m. All right. Did anybody write any questions in the live chat for us?
I'm pretty sure Dylan answered every question that anyone could possibly have about the Binghamton area.
Yes.
Well, I believe that.
Yeah, and I'm glad he's here to help.
Yeah, Dylan is the mayor of Binghamton when it comes to roads, so he knows his stuff. Why don't we take a 5-minute break real quick, as is customary with these things. What time is it now? 7:24 in the east. So you know what we'll do? We'll come back at 7:30.
Yes.
Why don't you put up a very boring 5-minute video that no one will have questions on?
Well, can't they just go to Roadway Wiz and do that themselves?
I said boring.
Oh, they can go to any of the other video sites, like the 12 hours of watching the fireplace that I had on all day today.
I'm watching my fireplace right now. It's not doing anything.
Is Elise keeping cookie dough warm?
My heaters are doing a good job of that. Radiators.
So, Steve, you're at your house right now. You're not at a relative's house?
No, I had the relatives at my house for the gingerbread party.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yep.
They came his house.
They came in. I got to do that at some point.
You are welcome to, for some definition, but Yep, keeping safe.
Yeah. That's what we can do. Just keep safe so that way we can do this after the pandemic.
Yeah, the sooner we get through this, the sooner we can get back to coming people's houses. So
yeah, I have a trip down to New Jersey planned sometime over the winter, but any house visitations I'll just probably waive their house.
Yeah, I'm looking to socialize, and the condition, which I think is fairly safe if you trust the people on the other end, is I'm going to isolate for 10 to 14 days beforehand. You please do the same, and if both parties isolate, there really is no risk getting together. And a lot of people are scared of any contact, but the key is being responsible and wearing masks, sanitizing or washing your hands as appropriate. Don't take risks, but you can do things. And
or if I must travel, I can go to my cabin and be hundreds or thousands of feet away from the nearest person.
And do as you please. Yep.
Although in the winter we shut the water down, so I have no water up there this time of year. In the middle of nowhere, so.
Do you melt your own snow?
I can. I can. No, but we have a wood heater, so yeah, I can definitely do that. We have wood stove, so I can definitely do that. I might go up there again on Christmas if it's warm enough.
Well, speaking of snow, aren't we supposed to get a big storm on Wednesday?
Yeah, it's the middle of December, so we're about due.
Yeah. So, that'll be fun. My first day on a new project, and we're gonna get over a foot of snow. That's gonna be interesting.
Hey Jess, we're not done yet. Stick around.
Yep. Yeah, we're taking a break, so we'll be back in a few minutes.
I had to take a roadway whiz.
But
get it? Ha 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 ha.
This presentation is still nice because it's still going on. And yeah, hopefully it is
it ain't
a
over yet,
snow.
folks.
I should get some more gingerbread. It's been a couple hours since I've eaten gingerbread.
Yeah, it was tasty, although it wasn't very sturdy.
That's all right.
Yeah, I didn't make a gingerbread house, because I know that I should not be eating gingerbread, but that's a different story.
Yeah, I got stuck with most of it. It's probably not the best.
Yep. And yes, we will keep all that snow up here.
I don't think it's going to be snowing in New Orleans anytime soon.
Nah.
I do think they'll be spared, at least with this round.
Yeah.
Northwestern Louisiana could see a dusting. It happens from time to time.
Yeah, Shreveport occasionally gets something. All right. Welcome back. Certainly glad you could join us today.
It's like I never left.
Yeah, I feel like you were just with me a few minutes ago.
I never left. This chair is too comfy.
Doug never leaves that chair.
Oh, it is a very comfy chair.
I'll bet it is. I wouldn't want to do that myself.
And I
my back,
bought
so
it from IKEA, so I had to make it myself.
What do you want to watch, guys?
Roads.
All right.
I'm actually a little surprised I don't see 201 in this list.
I do see 201 in this list.
It's there.
Look harder. Look closer.
Oh, I have bad eyes. There it is.
That and your joints.
Yeah.
Steve's
Yeah, but I have
joints
back
acting
injury,
up.
so I am just laid out in my chair right now.
Well, lay out in your chair and watch some roads for a little while. That's not bad.
The bad part is when I have to get up.
Well, the key is to stay in your chair.
Yep.
So that's the Exchange Street Bridge that we just crossed. And we crossed from the south bank to the north, so now we're in the city of Binghamton proper. Or we're in the, not proper, but the what they consider the downtown area. And these red lights are really annoying, so I'm going to skip them. So as we come up Exchange Street, in a couple of blocks, we'll reach the intersection with Court Street, which is a traffic circle, and you have the Broome County Courthouse on the left. And the circle is one of the main intersections in the whole city. A lot of old buildings through here still. It's a very nice looking area.
One of the buildings downtown is, and I'm not sure if we'll see this video, actually. I think the facade is made from steel.
One of the earliest buildings to feature that, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the circle. If you were trying to find the courthouse, it would be on your left right now. You can't really see it in this video, but it is there. That was one of my favorite buildings to get drone pictures of, because you have the dome there, and then there's the statue on the roof. Very pretty building. And here's the main strip through downtown on Court Street.
Got some breweries. Galaxy Brewing Company is going to be on our right around here.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Binghamton without a bunch of pubs.
All right, so that's upstate New York for you in general.
Yeah. Here's the bridge over the Shenango River as we enter the west side. So 17C begins here and heads west. Route 11 continues north from this point. And
eventually you'll wind up in Quebec. Many hours later.
Not this year.
Not this year. No.
I went to Canada this year.
You did. You got it in at the right time.
Just in time. I went to the Brier, which is the Canadian men's curling championship. We went there on February 29th.
Yeah, February was a good month to go to Canada.
Yeah. Oh, and to watch hockey games. Or curling matches.
Well, yeah, you went up for the curling this time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I go up to Canada to see hockey, I usually wind up in Ottawa.
Okay, yeah. Because I know you.
Yeah, no one goes to the games there, so you can actually get tickets.
Is that right?
Yeah, it reminds me of a newer Nassau Coliseum where basically the arena's out in nowhere land, actually out in Canada. There's actually some businesses and what have you near there, but it's far away from the city. But the Senators just haven't been that good, so you can actually get tickets. I'd recommend going up there. Once we can go to Canada again.
Yeah,
you want to go to Canada once you can go to Canada.
Yeah, and I recommend going to Ottawa anyways. It's just a really nice city.
I've been through Canada, but I haven't been in Canada.
I didn't know there was a town named Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ottawa's one of those cities I have not been to yet.
Yeah, Canad, eh? I think that was from a Labatt commercial, actually. But here we are on 17 coming into the Prospect Mountain interchange.
Yeah, this has changed a bit over the years.
Yep.
Or especially recently. There has been video up on YouTube for about 10 years, maybe even a little longer than that, of the original configuration through here. So if you watch that and then you watch this, you will probably be surprised to see what we're entering right now, which is the separation of traffic well before the famous kamikaze curve.
Yeah, you have one of those how it started, how it's going memes button video form with this.
This would be a good before and after video to do.
Yeah.
I know Jason over at 504 Road Trips likes to do those, and I haven't gotten up together with him lately to do one. There are actually a few of them I want to do. This might be one of them that I.
Yeah, I think it would be, especially
with this here, like with this dedicated flyover. This was one of the newer ramps that was not in place in the original configuration. They threw this in later. Yeah, you used to, the way it used to be was that you merged with 81 and then everybody weaved across each other to get to exit 4 on the right. But now you have the separation of traffic between the two highways. Now this is a lot wider. There are proper Excel lanes on the right now, and you have shoulders too, which the original viaduct through here did not have. It's just a much nicer highway to drive.
Yeah.
Than its predecessor.
Yeah, as I remember, the highway of old, if you were trying to get on exit off of 7 from 81, basically, it was a little bit tighter.
Yeah. Some of these ramps were not fun years ago, but we've made a lot of strides in recent years. And again, you see on the right, there's Region 9 being very not shy about putting up 86 signs along this stretch, even though the official switchover hasn't happened yet.
Well, this is 86 east of 81, and I think there's no issue with posting it on the concurrent section because obviously this is already an interstate, so FHWA wouldn't complain about this whether or not it's officially 86 yet.
Right, yeah. But I think the official definition of it remains from exit 75 on eastward.
Yeah.
But are they going to pitch a fit about 86 signs going up on here? Probably not.
Yeah, and I think also too, it's for continuity purposes, because some people will follow the road as 17, other people will follow as 86, especially if they're, let's say, not from, the Northeast. So that 86 number, some people, because it's been around for, over 20 years now, some people actually may be more familiar with it, especially if they're, not from this part of the country.
I think you skipped the old shield right there.
You want me to go back and see the old shield?
Everyone likes the old shield.
Right.
Yes.
Here. Take a few seconds or a few minutes or hours to gawk at the old shield.
Well, the first time I noticed that, I pulled over on the shoulder, backed up to it, and sat there to take my photo.
No, that's lame. If you were a real road geek, you would just park in the right lane.
If it was not dark out, I could have.
And then you could, post it online and say, "Hey, look what I found!" And I was like, "Dude, no."
This is still more justifiable than an old light pole or a replica light pole, which I thought it was just a replica.
Could you imagine if somebody was dumb enough to just park in the middle of a live lane to take a picture of a light pole?
Can you imagine what would happen if PayPal stole Steve's girlfriend?
I tell you, I don't know, but
I have worse stories than that, so I'll go with PayPal.
I'll tell you, I don't know if anybody's tried that before, pulling over to take pictures of light poles in active travel lanes, but I'm not sure that anybody should try it, and whoever does is pretty dumb. So that's just my 2 cents.
I have stood and taken care of nature in the middle of a live travel lane. This was on Old US 66 in, I believe, the Arizona desert. It might have been California desert, but no cars bothered me for the 10 minutes that I spent walking around there. So there's a difference between that and being on a freeway and taking pictures of poles.
Yeah. Whereas if I find an old sign, for instance, especially if it's usually at this point it's off the interstate, I'll just figure out the closest place to safely park and then meander my way over. Actually, I did that a few weeks ago. I'm not going to mention where the sign is. We'll find out about it eventually.
So as we follow the I-81 alignment, here we have exit 4, which has been reconfigured. Exit 4 used to be a cloverleaf.
Yes.
And then it was reconfigured into a 4-ramp interchange instead of an 8-ramp. On the right, on the other side of the barrier, you have a dedicated roadway for traffic entering from 363.7 onto either 81 or 17. It gets its own flyover, which you'll see on the right.
And it had basically the root shields in the pavement, and I'm not sure if it's still there, but they had a US 17 shield painted it onto the pavement from that approach.
Oops.
Yep, I have a picture of that somewhere on my computer.
I'm pretty
Someone
sure.
should host the Binghamton meet so we could see it.
Good.
I know somebody who could host one.
Yeah. It's after the pandemic, I'll probably be hosting a meet in Oneonta. I gotta figure out the way to best do that, so.
I think we should just have a meet at your cabin.
Good. I mean, there is a yellow yield sign going up to the cabin.
That's worth
but
a
that
meet
was
right
actually
there.
that was actually from an old neighbor who actually worked for a DPW. He's actually, unfortunately, he passed away about 10 years ago.
See that? I mentioned the name 504 Road Trips, and look who pops up in the live chat. It's like magic.
Bling bling.
I didn't hear anyone mention the name 504 Road Trips, but he's here anyway.
Well, you didn't pay attention.
And I often tune out. Now,
I know. You always tune me out. Yeah, I know. I get it. That's okay. On the right here, as we pass by Exchange Street on the right here, here's the old approach to the Rock Bottom Bridge as we round the curve. And then this merges in with Brandywine Highway northbound, which comes in from the left. The overhead sign up ahead has recently been changed, so now there's 4 shields on that sign on the left because they had to make room for an 86 shield. And here's the elevated highway on the left. You'd be able to see the ballpark, which is home of the New York Mets AA affiliate. What are they called? The Rumble Ponies?
Binghamton Rumble Ponies.
The Rumble Ponies.
The Rumble Ponies, yes.
Okay.
It is minor league baseball, so you got to have a weird name that goes along with, basically, with the team. Like the Rumble Ponies are, what's the one out in down in Huntsville, Alabama? The Rocket City Trash Pandas.
The Trash Pandas.
I saw them when they were the B-Mets, just saying.
Yes, so did I. They were playing, I think, the Portland Sea Dogs. I've also seen a Portland Sea Dogs game in Portland, Maine.
Oh, it's in
I don't go to Portland. For the Portlands. I don't go to Portland, Oregon exclusively.
And Roadways
The
of
Yard
Delaware.
Goats, another one. Yeah.
Yep. I've been trying to get to a Yard Goats game. Maybe this can finally be the year.
Iron Pigs. Let me see. There's the Norwich Sea Unicorns. They used to be the Connecticut Tigers. Before that, they were the Oneonta Tigers. What else do we have?
Yeah, other minor league stadiums down further south. What's Aberdeen's nickname? I forget.
Ironbirds.
Ironbirds. Okay.
The one in Wilmington, the Blue Rocks, I think it is.
The Blue Rocks. Yep. They got retained as well, as along with the new realignment. Here are those painted 17s that you were talking about.
That's US. That's US.
Yep.
There we go, Mark. There's your US 17.
Yeah, the Blue Rocks were retained by the Phillies organization.
No, actually, I think they were retained by the Nationals.
Were they? I thought they were. I thought they were Phillies for some reason.
Lakewood or Jersey Shore is the Phillies.
But Wilmington is still a long season affiliate, right?
Yeah, they'll be Washington's.
I thought for some reason they were Philly. I don't know if they changed that recently or what, but yeah, I don't know.
They change all the time.
Well, yeah, that is true. A lot of these
minor league baseball is always in flux.
Yeah, especially those lower tier teams like the A's and the short seasons and all of that. They're always changing them around. It's one of the things that I find really surprising about the Hudson Valley team is that they've been like short season Tampa Bay for 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was a team ever, that they were affiliated with before Tampa.
They were.
I can't remember who it was.
I want to say.
Well, that's why we have the internet.
I want to say it was Texas.
I was going to recommend the internet to solve this problem. So
yeah.
It is a series of tubes.
Yeah, they started out as an expansion team for somebody else, and then they joined the Rays farm system several years after their founding.
Yeah. The team up here, Tri-City, Valley Cats, they were affiliated with Houston for close to 20 years. They'll probably be independent for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, the one thing I like about the realigning and all that is that they're bringing teams a lot closer to their home markets, it seems, or they're taking that into more account. Right.
I mean, some cases they can't. For instance, one of the proposals I was seeing was Bowling Green would be in that Mid-Atlantic League, and of course, that's actually a team where you really can't put them anywhere because there's no teams in that level of minor league baseball that is nearby.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the Midwest League, but I think the closest team to them was Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
In that league, so
right.
And then out west, the Northwest League, basically just because of the geography of everything, teams are a lot more spread out just because there aren't as many cities.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is a little harder to have geographic proximity out west, but a lot of the teams in the East have tried to bring their farm teams a lot closer to home.
Yeah.
With the Yankees doing what they just did, you have your long season A ball, your Double A, and your Triple A teams all within what, an hour and a half of the Bronx.
Yeah. I mean, the Mets, they've done something similar. Like, they have Syracuse, they have Binghamton, Brooklyn.
Yeah, they still have Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
So is Brooklyn...
And then you have other cities that basically lost game of musical chairs. Like Lowell, even Lowell actually lost the game of musical chairs. I think that was the Red Sox. They just couldn't figure out what to do with all of their affiliates. So they actually own the affiliate down in Virginia.
Okay.
For instance, so they. No, I know the Mets own the Syracuse Mets too. So.
Yeah. So. The Chiefs are what? They're still AAA for somebody, right?
Well, the Syracuse Mets now.
Oh, that's right, because they used to be the Nationals AAA.
Yeah, they used to be they used to be the Chiefs for or some variation of it. They were the Sky Chiefs for a while, but that Chiefs name has been around for decades. And then when the Mets bought the team, they're like, "Oh, we'll just name them the Syracuse Mets."
Mm.
And even as a Mets fan, I'm just kind of like, they probably should have kept the Chiefs name.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those where I guess, you could make the argument that there was nothing wrong with it in the first place.
Well, when the Nationals were, years ago, they used the Native American theme, but when the Nationals were basically the parent club of the Syracuse Chiefs, they actually used a railroad chief theme.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, they could so you can use chiefs in a number of situations. But here we are on the Vestal Parkway talking about sports in Syracuse.
As we talk about baseball minor league affiliations and whatnot, we were just on 201 in the last video, and here's the eastbound ride on Vestal Parkway.
Yeah.
So the Mets, Doug, you're a Mets fan, just in case people.
Yeah, they were actually the better team in New York when I started following baseball.
Well, yeah, that was right in your week.
Yeah, during the late '80s. Yeah.
I mean, same for me as well, but I chose them both because I was from New Jersey and didn't realize I had to pick one.
Yeah, well, my father was a Yankees fan when he was alive. Basically, he grew up in the 50s, and that was, the real golden age of baseball in New York. He grew up in Flushing, and he wound up picking the Yankees out of, all the teams he could have picked from the area. The Dodgers, the Giants, which, had very good teams, but, in those last years before they moved to California. Apparently my grandfather was a Red Sox fan, but he was actually, born in Massachusetts and grew up in Rhode Island, so.
He picked the Red Sox over the Braves, huh?
Well, that's what he picked in like 1920s or what have you.
Yeah, right. Well, he had a choice if he was from Boston back then.
Yeah, well, he grew up in Rhode Island, so.
Okay. We passed by a school ground on the right before this interchange, and one of my aunts works in that school. It was declared a total loss after the flooding of 2011, and they built a new building on the site on stilts. Basically like what you see down on the Gulf Coast, with like in Louisiana, where they build these buildings on these concrete pillars and all that. So that's what they did with the new school building.
Yeah. Binghamton got a lot of floods. Basically 2000. I think it was 2000 and was Lee from 2006 or 2011?
Lee, I think, was 11. I think that was the flood.
Yeah. And then you had, I think, 2006, there was a lot of floods, too.
Like, it came on the heels of Irene. And so, like, Lee came right after, and that's what really sent everything over the top.
And then Binghamton's other minor league team plays into the arena on the left, the Binghamton Devils, which is the farm team of the New Jersey Devils. They actually moved down from Albany because Binghamton lost their other minor league team that they had before then, which was the Senators.
Okay. Yeah, I have not been to a hockey game there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went to a Binghamton Senators game. Basically, when they played Bridgeport, which was the Islanders' farm team. So.
We mentioned the Prospect Mountain interchange and all the new ramp configurations that were created by that new interchange, and also the movements that were rehabbed and improved as part of that project. So we'll take a look at a couple more of those movements here.
Yeah.
Here's the view from 81 South approaching the interchange, and this is the ramp connecting to 17 westbound. This would be good stuff for a Binghamton meet.
Yeah.
One video that is not, I don't believe, in your library, but to me it was an interesting drive, is coming in on 86 or 17, what have you, on the old route onto US 11 from the east. I've just found that drive does not feel like New York when I'm coming in that way.
Like if you enter Binghamton on 11?
Right, coming from 86 on that stub of former New York 17 into 11 that way. It just it has a different feel to it, almost Pennsylvania.
Well, that's not good.
It's unique though.
You just uttered the word Pennsylvania. That can't be good.
No, that can't be good.
Something to show in a video that it's got long stretches of 4-lane undivided roadway that it just has a unique feel to it.
Yeah. I've actually driven that before, and I do have video of it sitting away somewhere. But yeah, I think it is unique to that area. Or that stretch. Like if you drove Old 17 up from Harriman all the way into Binghamton, which is what I did on that particular day, there's nothing else like it along that whole drive. So it is noteworthy in that regard, yeah. This is the new exit 72, by the way, that they relocated a short distance to the west as part of Prospect Mountain.
What's the new number going to be?
What? 244? Maybe? Something like that?
If they get around to it.
Something in the 240s. Yeah, in like 100 years when they finally get around to it. Which will happen first, guys? 86 will get its new exit numbers, or I-73 will be signed through West Virginia.
I'll be dead in either circumstance. So will you.
I'm taking the exit numbers because exit numbers have a chance in hell of happening before the heat death of the universe.
I think that if the exit numbers along here get renumbered, that's like a triggering event for the universe to explode.
Yeah. I'll be dead for that too.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be around to see I-86 through the Catskills either.
It still has a better chance of happening than I-73.
You know what? I will give you that. That's as unrealistic as I-86 through Delaware County is. It's still more realistic than I-73 through Williamson, West Virginia.
Yeah, I-49 will probably be finished in Arkansas first.
They're moving on it.
Well, yeah, Arkansas is actually trying to build that.
Slowly, but they're on it.
Yeah.
And notice here in this part of the video that you have the old stripes from when this was the open bridge, and so the entire freeway main line was using this.
Yep.
Before they finished the new overpass.
Yeah,
so
we should clarify that this project was built in two different phases. Like the phase 1 is what Steve was mentioning, where they just replaced the 4 bridges over the Shenango and kept the traffic as it was. Phase 2 introduced the 2 new flyovers that further separated traffic and contributed to the existing configuration that we have today. I think that was, I could be wrong, I usually am, but I think it was a 2-phase project, and I believe there were separate bids for each phase. They just happened to be built simultaneously, or consecutively, rather. Kind of like what they did with the K Bridge down in New York City, where that was 2 different contracts that just so happened to be consecutive with how the bid process ended up working out. I think you had a similar situation here with the 2 phases of Prospect Mountain. The drive into beautiful downtown Binghamton.
Downtown Binghamton is beautiful with its historic buildings. It may not be the most populated place anymore, but it has a lot of inherent beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like a lot of the architecture around here. Maybe
you got a lot. Yeah, you got a lot of that in the upstate cities. The old, the old architecture from when the cities were more bustling.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look for architectural relics, a place like Buffalo is still a great place to start.
Syracuse has a bunch. You go downtown, Clinton Square area, Rochester, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Utica. Yep. We do have nice architecture in a few parts of Troy.
Yeah. I will agree with that. And just like all those other towns, there's also plenty of economic depression.
Yeah.
Well, that is one thing they all share in common too. Yeah.
It was imported from Cleveland. Because after all, their main export is crippling depression.
Yeah. Crippling depression and burning rivers, right?
Yes.
That's the State Street Bridge as we cross back over to the south bank of the river, and Vestal Parkway begins up ahead, heading back west.
Yes.
I wonder the accident history of this curve when it was still part of 17. Couldn't have been pleasant.
Yeah, especially when it snows.
Yeah.
I know eastbound right now, people go flying till the last moment and then jam on their brakes ahead of the curve. And you get a mix of people. Some of them do 30 over the bridge. Some of them do 60.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'll show you one more Binghamton area video. This is 26 heading into Endicott from the south.
Yeah.
the realigned 20. The original 26 remains. It looks like the original truss bridge from 26 is still in place.
Yeah, basically that is still very very drivable.
Main Street through Vestal.
Yeah.
But this is of course a much better way to route general traffic back when there was something to commute to. And Dylan's way home from work.
I'm glad we could recreate your ride home from work on your day off. And yeah, here's the exit 67 problem child. I guess time will tell what they decide to do with this as far as improving ramp geometry. As you can see, you're a little constrained here because you have the Susquehanna River Bridge right next to it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if they pull a Route 7 here, and when they come back to this, they put traffic lights on 26 and have a partial interchange instead of a cloverleaf.
Yeah, it is a 4-lane freeway right now. I wonder if it's a bit overbuilt for the traffic it carries today. Because I'm sure when they drew this up, there was still a lot of jobs on this side of the river.
Oh, yeah. And that was the whole point. And now, if you could get rid of that other cloverleaf, you can get rid of this one. Nothing is sacred anymore.
Right. I mean, they got rid of the one at Binghamton, which carries a lot more traffic than I would imagine this one does.
Right. They added traffic lights to what was once only the one signal at Old State Road. Now you have the new interchange there.
Yeah.
It ruins the experience.
Or they could pull a Malta and just put roundabouts.
Roundabout heaven.
Yeah.
Round and round till you puke.
Yeah. You try to follow Route 67 through there and you get dizzy.
Yeah.
So this is part of the old Endicott Johnson complex that we're passing through.
Yeah.
I like those signals.
Yeah, there's still some old stuff hanging around.
Dylan corrects that this was the IBM complex.
You sure about that?
I would trust Dylan on
I would trust
everything
Dylan
in this area.
Well, I would also trust the EJ signs on the front of the building, but that's okay.
I'm going to let the two of you argue this.
Yeah. I'll stay out of this.
All right, well, you do that. Rev up your engines, folks. Let's do this video.
Boogity, boogity, boogity.
Yeah. Wonder what
Boogity, 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 boogity.
Yeah, it's too bad he retired. I miss listening to him. Daryl Waltrip. Okay, so here is the street circuit lap. In Watkins Glen. Here's the start-finish line right now. Your lap around the old 1948 road course begins now. The parking lot for Watkins Glen State Park is on the right.
Yep.
Now,
I do not feel like I'm in a street race right now.
You know, it is a little unfortunate that we are not able to go as fast as the racers were able to in 1948, but, you know, this will have to do, unfortunately.
I'm also willing to bet that there's more pavement on the road now than there was then, because part of the course was dirt.
One thing I didn't confirm, or maybe I read it and then I forgot, was this whole thing paved back in the 40s?
No, that's what I'm saying. I looked at an old map and it was part asphalt, part concrete, part gravel, part dirt.
Yeah, we're going to be passing by New York, one of New York's shortest routes to our right, 419.
Yeah, that's a short one.
Yep, goes to the state park entrance. Not the shortest, though. That would be 437 in Auburn.
Yeah, because I think 419 is barely a quarter of a mile, right?
Yeah, just about. I mean,
Like it
it
goes
goes
off
to the park.
Yeah, like it peels off to the right there, like you saw, and then it just ends at the top of the hill. Right as you basically you turn on it and you can see the other end from when you get on.
Yeah.
But yeah, 419 is a short one. The one that we're on right now, 329, is relatively short. The one we're going to be on in a few minutes, 409, that's another short one.
Lots of state routes with stub endings.
Get out
around
of
Watkins
the way,
Glen.
dumbass. Run your ass off the road. Okay. Now we have open country in front of us, and now I can actually drive somewhat like a race car driver.
A very conservative one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm driving the Wizmobile, so, if I take a turn too fast, the front might fall off. It is.
I wonder if 329 and 409 were specifically designated because they were part of the old road course.
I think 409 was I know was that a race, like a 409? I think I know that was a cleaning service, but I'm thinking 409, the Beach Boys. Was that the song about a race car?
I don't think that was.
Giddy up, giddy up.
Yeah, that would be the car engine, not the route number.
Yeah, so this is quite the loop, as I said in the slideshow, was about 6.5 miles. So we loop well out of town to the west, and we're still on our outbound part of the lap here. It encompasses the entire length of Route 329, which is about to end, and the entire length of 409, which we'll get on in a couple minutes as we start back towards town. Here's the end 329 assembly. The race course now turns to the right and down the hill to the stone bridge before we start to head back east towards the village.
Yeah, it looks from my clinched highway list that I do in fact need to get here and drive the old road course because I have not driven these roads.
Okay.
Yep, I think that's something. Well, I think that'll be something that you'll find interesting.
Yeah, this is an interesting area. If you've not been here before and you're into the history of auto racing and stuff like that, this is definitely worth passing through this area. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and it's a cool spot to go and visit. And if you happen to be in town on a weekend when the Drive the Glen promotion is available, I recommend that you take advantage of that.
And if you're into wine, there's plenty of wineries in that part of the world too.
That's true too. Yeah.
Wine, waterfalls, lots of waterfalls.
And racing. What else do you need?
Oh, and water. Like Finger Lakes water.
Yeah. Yeah, every once in a while on the right you can see these scenic byway markers that point the way. What's interesting to note is that the markers and the route signs for this are posted only in one direction, and it's the direction that we're traveling in. And the reason why I'm highlighting this direction of the trip is because this is the direction of the lap. So when drivers were, doing this circuit, they did a clockwise circuit, which is what we're doing right now. Very rarely in the old days did you ever see counterclockwise laps. That's been more of a recent development. In fact, when Formula One first started racing at the Turkish Grand Prix about 20 years ago, there was this huge uproar not because of anything to do with the actual circuit's construction, but because they made they made such a big deal of it being a counterclockwise circuit because it was so, against tradition that they were running a counterclockwise lap as opposed to the more straightforward clockwise direction. But, they got over it, and, now you're seeing more counterclockwise laps on tracks all around the world now. Now we're on State Highway 409, by the way. That started at the railroad crossing that we just went over a few seconds ago. And now we're going to start descending a hill, which is about a mile in length. It'll take us back into town.
I feel like you're speeding up now.
Well, I'm
He's trying to win the race.
I'm trying to win the race, man. Got to get
Cheer
this
me
lap
on.
finished as soon as possible. I figure that by the time this lap ends, Steve would have done like 2 or 3 laps
Yeah,
if he was driving.
I might not be the Stone Bridge yet.
Doug would have stopped to take pictures of all the signs, so he'd still be.
I definitely would be stopping at that stone bridge.
Yeah, that is one thing I didn't do, but I can see that. So we're still going downhill as we enter the village of Watkins Glen again.
Yeah.
And Steve was mentioning Milliken's Corner, which is up ahead here at the end of the grade downhill. And there were accounts of drivers just missing the curve and continuing straight instead of making the hard left here. So if you had a spot right here at the end of the straightaway, that probably wasn't the safest spot to be. By the way, the pit road actually is the street that continued straight there. The pit road was the next block over from Franklin Street, which is what we're turning onto now. So this front straightaway was occupied by Franklin Street. The pit road was on the next block over, and then it merged in right around where the state park entrance is. So what we're on right now
to your left, if you go into Watkins Glen on the street corners, they have little signs with race cars, which I think are for like intersection markers or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I was driving this in a race car and I was in an actual Grand Prix, there would be no stopping, obviously. So that has to be.
And you would be winning the race.
I would be. So I don't know what the lap times were back in 1948, but this lap was logged in about 10 minutes.
Probably we're not winning.
Well, I wouldn't be winning the race if I was pulling 10-minute laps. I know that.
Right.
Our final video for the evening. I'll show you what the Drive the Glen experience was like.
On your marks, get set, pause. Go.
Yeah, so they line you up at the entrance gate, and you fill out a couple of waiver forms, and then they take you out on the track. And as I said, you have to stay behind the pace car. You can do some stuff, like as long as you're behind the pace car, like you can pass other cars if it's safe to do so. You cannot at any time, however, pass the pace car. That's not allowed.
What would they do?
I don't know.
Probably ban you from driving the Glen in the future.
You're banned for life.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it once.
Get a ban hammer.
You're gonna kick me out. I was gonna leave anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they would do. That is an interesting point. Yeah, like if you're doing it once anyway, um, I don't know.
They'll put out the spike strips for you.
So here we are. We're getting onto the track after turn one, and so those of you who are in the audience who are NASCAR fans, I'm sure you'll recognize the rest of this drive as we pull onto the track and we go through the S's, which run up the hill. And when I was on this for the first time, I didn't realize what a change in elevation this really is. Because when you watch it on TV, it doesn't look like it's that steep of an elevation change. But when you're on it yourself and you're looking at it from this angle, this is quite... There's quite the banking through here and the curves, and there's quite an elevation change right here as we go uphill. And I also didn't realize from watching this on TV for a number of years just how narrow some parts of this are. Like right here, it looks like you're going through a tunnel with the catch fencing overhanging the track. So as we come out of the S's, we now enter what they call the backstretch. This is one of the main straightaways. There's really 3 straightaways on here. This is one of them. There's also the front straightaway, and then there's the straightaway coming up around the next curve here. Up ahead here, we have what's known as the bus stop chicane. It adds a little bit of character to what otherwise would have been just a straight shot into the next curve. We have a long sweeping right-hander up ahead. Now, I mentioned before that there are 2 different alignments of this circuit. The NASCAR circuit is considerably shorter because it omits the section that we're about to enter here. NASCAR would continue off to the right here, but we're going to continue straight onto the main section of the track, which includes more curves and more elevation changes here. This is the circuit that IndyCar follows. Makes the track a lot more interesting, if you ask me, than just a bunch of straightaways.
Yeah.
You know?
It's more technical, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's a more European course in character compared to what you usually have in this country.
Yeah. That's why the design of the Circuit of Americas in Texas is so refreshing. That's a throwback to the old European style of circuit design because it incorporates elevation changes a lot more than most U.S. circuits do. And for those of you who don't know, the Circuit of the Americas in Texas is the home of the Formula One United States Grand Prix. I believe IndyCar runs there now. Le Mans runs there. And I believe NASCAR is going to start running there. And its most notable feature is actually right out of the gate, right out of the start-finish line. You go up about 150 feet in elevation. And the first turn is basically a blind curve at the top of this, or at the apex of this hill. And it's a very challenging curve even for the pros to navigate. Yeah, so now we just re-entered the NASCAR alignment. Now we're just at the other end of that second long straightaway. A short left-hander followed by a short right-hander, and we'll be at the start-finish line. Watkins Glen used to be home to Formula One racing as well back in the day, but they left town, I want to say in the 70s sometime. Used to be the home of the United States Grand Prix.
And you can go bowling.
You can, yeah. Well, today you can, yeah.
Yep.
Here's the infamous turn 1, which is complicated by, it's not as obvious here, but this is actually a downhill curve. the end of the front straightaway is downhill, so that complicates your braking and in your turn-in. Those of you who are NASCAR fans have probably seen the video of Jimmy Johnson going straight into the wall because he lost his brakes going into turn one, and he crashed head-on into the styrofoam barrier, and promptly emerged from his car standing on the hood triumphantly. That's one of the more famous snippets of video in the 21st century from the NASCAR perspective. He went on to become a 7-time champion after that incident.
I feel like we've been to this part.
Yeah, so this video covers the entire drive that I took, which was it was 3 laps, and it was like about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, when I went to the Drive the Glen website, I was reading it quickly, and it said you get to drive 3 laps around the course.
They should have
without stopping the start or finish line.
They should have left the pace car off lap 2 so you could do what you like, and then it just comes back on for lap 3.
I wish I could, just get on the track with myself and just do a hot lap and see what kind of time I could put up.
See how many parts you can leave on the track.
Yeah, I'd be missing the front bumper and the front right, tire probably. Hey, it's the Wizmobile. It's got 300,000 miles on it. Something's bound to fall off it if I drive it at race car speed. We'll leave this video going as long as you guys want. If anybody has any questions about the material that we covered tonight, I know that we're basically going to end the video, or end the presentation with this video. So we're going to be wrapping it up here in a few minutes. If anybody's got anything they want to bring up in these last few minutes that's Southern Tier related, now's your chance to do so.
Yeah. If you have any questions about Elmira or Corning.
Or New Jersey.
Or Pennsylvania.
No.
No.
By the way, the final score from West Point was Army 15, Navy nothing.
Yeah, that was a very foggy game to watch earlier.
It was a very foggy day here, too.
Yeah, it wasn't foggy up near me. It was just kind of dismal. I took a walk on the new electric trail, which is a rail trail going from Albany to Hudson. Walked a few miles of it today.
I didn't know there was a rail trail going that way.
Yeah, they just opened it as part of that Empire State Trail.
Oh, it's a part of
And
that.
it followed an old trolley line that went from Albany to Hudson by way of Nassau and Valencia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They've been calling for rain in the forecast possibly this afternoon, so I'm like, I'll just go for somewhere for a little while in the morning.
All right, we've completed a lap, so this is lap 3 now.
Try doing a lap backwards for fun.
Yeah, I could have turned around and tried to done a backwards.
Do I get an extra lap that way?
Yeah, I'm sure that would have gone over well.
Yeah.
If you do it in reverse, you're back down to 1 lap after this.
Yeah, you're still on the lap you started with, right?
You stop just short of the finish line, you back up to where you started.
Yeah, that works.
And yes, we still have COVID travel restrictions in this part of the country.
Do we? Yes, we do.
Not going into specifics on that, but it is what it is.
This part of the country acknowledges that COVID is out there, so hence we have restrictions.
Yeah. I will say, to wrap up the whole Army-Navy discussion, that if you ever get the chance to watch a football game at West Point, that's one of those things you should do. It is one of my favorite venues in sports.
Yeah, I saw a game there once during the 90s.
I've seen a couple of games there. The tradition, if you arrive, last one I saw was Army Air Force, and I think that is a game worth seeing if you're able to get to that one, because you're going to see more of the tradition on display. But that's the real draw there, the formations, the ritual of it. Actually, good football, you may want to keep looking.
Yeah,
right,
the football
game I went to, I think they played Boston University.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Army's independent.
They are.
Yeah, so they're just going to play a bunch of schools.
Yeah. I think that of the main service academy football teams, I think Army's the only one that's still independent. And Navy and the Air Force Academy, to my understanding, are in conferences.
And Navy was a more recent move, I think.
Yes, I think that was during the last whole big conference reshuffle.
Yep.
They went on to, I want to say, the Conference USA in football. I think they're in the Patriot League and other sports.
Yeah. That would make sense because that's Army's conference in other sports.
Right.
But yeah, as we were saying, like the football is secondary, really. The experience of the pregame stuff, you watch the cadets, form on the lawn on the campus, and then they march into the stadium, and just the pregame is the best part of the experience. But it's one of those experiences you should get to see sometime.
And the touchdown celebration.
Well, that is true too. Although when I was younger, Army was pretty goddamn awful, so I didn't get to see that too often. But yeah, it is interesting to watch them spill onto the field and do push-ups after every touchdown.
Yep. So they are a Patriot League, football in the AAC. They're in the Collegiate Sprint Football League, Eastern Association of Rowing Colleges and Women's Rowing Colleges, the Eastern Intercollegiate Gymnastics League, and the Mid-Atlantic Squash Conference and Eastern Intercollegiate Wrestling Association. There you go.
And I want to say, they are. I want to say Army has I think Army has a hockey program too, and they're in the Atlantic Hockey.
They play as a club sport right now. Apparently, American Collegiate Hockey Association. They play in the ECHA. That's Navy hockey. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Navy because I was trying to answer what they're playing in. Army.
Yeah, Army's in Atlantic Hockey.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, folks, that was 3 laps around Watkins Glen Raceway.
And Atlantic Hockey has a team in Colorado for some reason.
Which would be Air Force.
That would be the reason.
Yep.
So I hope you enjoyed this look at Watkins Glen, and I hope you enjoyed this look at the southern tier of New York. As we reach the end of this video, I think we've reached the end of tonight's presentation. So I want to thank Steve and Doug for donating their time to this fantastic cause tonight.
Mainly Doug.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And Dylan for his
And Dylan.
commentary.
Yes, and Dylan.
And we're coming up to a county road. I think we're coming up to a county road.
Yeah, I think this is some county route that isn't.
I think County Route 16, perhaps.
It says I-86 to the left on one sign and I-86 to the right on the other sign. Who do we believe?
I'll flip a coin.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting.
Oh, and if you haven't liked this video already, do that.
I like this video.
I like this video because Steve showed up. So
Aww.
that should be all the reason you need to like it. You don't
That's all the reason I need.
You don't come here to listen to me babble on for 2 hours. You come here to listen to Steve. So
I hope they came to listen to Doug today because he definitely had more of the history.
Yep. Well, I was hoping they would actually come to see Dylan's commentary on the chat.
I came for that.
Well, we hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the interview with Rob Adams, and we look forward to our future presentations. As we know, we're just in week 2 of a long-running series this winter, so we're glad you were able to join us tonight. And for Doug and Steve and the rest of the folks here and the cast of thousands watching, this is Roadway Wiz signing off. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you for our next presentation.
Have a great night, everyone.
Safe travels.